So Marvel Rivals is one of the top video games of 2025 thus far. And this is a game that's been out for about 2 months and some change now. And even though it's addictive, it's very popular and everyone's playing it, some people can't help but feel that the game's a bit overrated. And the reason I say that is because I don't know, like this game is basically like Overwatch but different, but with Marvel characters. And don't get me wrong, that's something that's like very exciting, but I feel like Marvel Rivals probably would have been a game that stood out more if it came out sometime during the teens decade. Now, I'm not exactly sure whether or not Marvel Rivals is ever going to rival the original Overwatch game from the mid teens in terms of popularity, because that's a game that is considered to be one of the more profitable franchises of the teens decade. I think it's made $1 billion or since its inception, and I think to this day there are people who like still play the original Overwatch game because Lord knows Overwatch 2 is it's a game that a lot of people just hate. You know what I mean? And the reason I say that is because, like I've said in previous videos, the game has had launch issues. Um, it felt, I don't know, it didn't feel as good as the first Overwatch game. And one of the reasons why is because for whatever reason, they decided to replace 16 combat with, 5-on-5, player versus player gameplay. And I'm not exactly sure why that was done, but I'm pretty sure it's a decision that Blizzard Entertainment regrets. And 2022 in general just wasn't really a good year, overall. Not just for gaming, but just overall. 2022 wasn't a good year. There wasn't a lot of good high profile video games that came out that year. It was probably one of the worst years of gaming that we have seen within the past couple of years. And despite like the game being horrible, it actually managed to be really successful because of the hype and pretty much the fact that a lot of people ended up, playing Overwatch 2 when it came out. Because I believe the game had a player count of like 50 million at one point, but that was around the time that people were playing it, and then afterwards they were being kicked off of lobbies, and there was all these glitches and bugs, and then that led to backlash that eventually ended up hurting the game's like reputation, and honestly, like the game got review bombed shortly after it released because if you go on Metacritic, you'll find out that the game has like a meta score of 79 and a user score of 1.8. Now you look at Marvel Rivals, that's a game that had a meta score of 74 but a user score of 7.2. So obviously Marvel Rivals is a much better game. And the thing is, like with hero shooters, because it's a genre that a lot of video game companies don't like really invest in for the most part. It has to be something that stands out, and quality wise, um, the game has to live up to the hype that it's received before it's released or whatever. So I feel like with Marvel Rivals, it kind of did that to some extent, but at the same time, I think it'd be safe to say that the game is highly overrated only because it's a game that people think is like it's a fun game, but at the same time, it's not as good as the original Overwatch game from like 2016 or whatever. And yeah, I do feel that, like despite, Marvel Rivals being a game that's considered to be average by a lot of people, it's something that's going to continue to grow in terms of player count, and I'm pretty sure like this game is going to be around for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, like Marvel Rivals, like let's just say this: it's a game that only has like 10 maps, like so far. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get more maps in the future. You look at Overwatch 2, I think that game had like 35 or 36 different maps across multiple game modes, and even then, people still hate the game. And 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 for the most part, I feel like it has become irrelevant because I don't see like hardly anybody like I know of or anyone in general talk about Overwatch 2. People talk more about Marvel Rivals, and Marvel Rivals was developed by NetEase, which is a Chinese video game developer. Overwatch 2, in my opinion, is probably one of Blizzard Entertainment's biggest blunders, and because of that, it kind of makes me wonder about the future of the series and whether or not we're going to get an Overwatch 3 because and I know it's too soon to be talking about that, but at the same time, it's like I don't think people are really interested in Overwatch like they used to be. And we all know that, Blizzard tried to do everything they can to milk the original Overwatch game for as much money as they possibly could, and they've succeeded in doing so. And I kind of feel like the same thing's going to be the case with Marvel Rivals because I don't see a Marvel Rivals 2 coming out like anytime in the future because this game obviously just came out. But I do feel that, it's addictive enough to keep people emotionally invested in it. And I do feel like it's a game that is going to it's going to slowly grow in popularity as the year goes by because even though there have been minor issues with the game in terms of it being buggy and all that stuff, I don't think the issues that this game had following its launch compares to anything that we saw with Overwatch 2. So I do feel that, Marvel Rivals is going to grow in popularity. It's going to grow in player count. We're going to get more maps. We're probably going to get more added characters in the future. Um, the question is, will the hero shooter genre continue to increase in popularity as time goes by?